Well, now that we've set up the marketing org, we're going to go deep on a key customer segment. Our next session is Embracing U.S. Hispanic Growth in Your Marketing Strategy. Joining our virtual stage are Roberto Ruiz, Executive Vice President of Research, Insights, and Analytics at Univision, and Janna Navarro, Senior Director of Brand Strategy and Planning at HomeAdvisor. Roberto is going to explain how to market to this young and fast-growing demographic, and then Janna will share how HomeAdvisor put this into action. Roberto, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you so much, Veronica, and welcome everyone to sort of the last day of Commerce Next. I welcome all of you from our offices in Miami, Florida. I am going to be talking about embracing U.S. Hispanic growth in your marketing strategy. And I am going to be joined by Janna Navarro, who will join us midsection on the sort of the explaining how she did it at HomeAdvisor, and how did they look at the opportunity and their successes with the Hispanic consumer. For some reason, my slides are not advancing. I don't know if you can advance them over there. There you go. Okay, so it will be me and Janna, and I will bring her mid stage. So let me talk a little bit about Univision, and this is, I promise, this is the only sort of media slide that I'm gonna be showing you, but I think it's important to tell you who we are. We're the largest media company serving Hispanic America, and we reach Hispanics at every touch point. So the top is our 3 TV networks, open networks, and then Galavision and TUDN. But I want to bring you to the lower right-hand corner where we have our digital offerings. Since we're going to be later talking about e-commerce, I think it's very important to highlight the spectrum of digital offerings that we have, which goes from a product that we're about to launch called Prende, which is a advertising-based video on demand, sort of like, imagine a Spanish language Tubi or Pluto TV with a very large library. And then we have everything from, obviously, our apps, our digital properties, social, and an influencer network. So there's no shortage of sort of digital vehicles to engage with Hispanic consumers. And you may be thinking, well, what's a media company doing talking about, consumer behavior? Well, you really don't have to be a Hispanic marketing expert, because we are. So one area that differentiates Univision from many other media companies is that we have the largest collection of Hispanic insights from partners like the ones you see on this screen. All the way from instant polling from Civic Science to in-depth studies with Media Predict, which was our partner in the study that we're presenting, to NPD data for retail, which we buy and discuss with our clients, to attribution from EDO. Our team is a team of marketers who are dedicated to understanding Hispanic consumer behavior to help brands, agencies, and our partners be successful with this consumer. So you don't have to be an expert. Come to us and we will help you understand the size of the opportunity and engage with Hispanic consumers. A little bit about the market, and obviously most of you know this, but it's important to just go over it quickly. 62 million Hispanics in the US, 19% of the population. But that 56% is something I want you to think about, because that's the projected total population growth in the next 10 years, roughly, coming from the Hispanic segment. So over half of the growth in the US population is coming from Hispanics. And nearly 1 in 4 babies born in the US are Hispanics, and 1 in 2 in California. And when you think about what happened last year and the social tensions and the now increased focus on diversity and inclusion, engaging with Hispanics is the opportunity to win by doing what's right and doing great for your brand. Because with Hispanic consumers, you're going to bring incremental consumers to your brand. A lot of the brands that we engage with realize that, hey, I'm not speaking to Hispanics, I'm not engaging with them, and I'm missing a segment of the population that could generate growth. So it's incremental. Whereas many times in your marketing efforts, you have duplication. This is not the case here. And why are these Hispanic consumers, a key demographic for brands? Well, first of all, younger median age. They're younger, they're 30 years versus 42 years for non-Hispanic. They have bigger families, 3.3 people per Hispanic household versus 2.4 for non-Hispanic. And they have more kids. 46% of Hispanic households have children in the home versus 27 for non-Hispanic. That's not quite double, but almost. And actually, when you think about the first portion here, 30 years versus 42, those 12 years younger in age, combined with the fact that Hispanics have longer life expectancy, brands will get 18 more years of buying power when they engage with a loyal Hispanic consumer versus a non-Hispanic consumer. So this is a consumer with longer lifetime value. I'm going to switch now a little bit to the side of retail, because that's what we're going to talk about in this sort of the second half of my talk. Hispanics are retail super shoppers. They spent in 2019, and this is data from NPD, our partner that I quoted before, $388 billion in retail. And that's about a 14% share of total retail sales, which is actually higher than our share of households, which is around 11. But here's the key. Out of those 388 billion, 72 billion were spent online. And 73% of those, of the 72 billion were of the Hispanic spending came from Spanish language speakers. And I'm going to talk a little bit about language later, but consumers are bilingual, bicultural. However, engaging Hispanic consumers in language is much more effective and efficient and generates higher recall for your message. Now I'm going to go into this recent study that we're basically unveiling here. I mean, we've been talking about bits and pieces of it, which is this deep dive into the US Hispanic online shopper. Just one quick side on methodology to make sure you all know that this is a very large study with a very large sample. It was in field November to December of 2020. It's weighted by census, gender, age, and region, and it's 2,000 plus Hispanics and 2,000 plus non-Hispanics. So very representative sample. And when we talk, and this is about direct to consumer, right? E-commerce. We obviously didn't ask consumers, hey, are you going out to buy a DTC brand? That's not consumer lingo. We said when we talked about direct to consumer, we talked about brands who do not have a significant brick and mortar presence, and that will be what we will be referring to when we talk about DTC. So our first key takeaway is the Hispanic consumer is shopping online more than non-Hispanics and is ready to purchase more. Let me go into the data quickly here. So the three bars on the left side is the Hispanic consumer, the right side is the non-Hispanic. So the headline is that post-COVID, Hispanic consumers will drive your online shopping growth. And the way to look at this is this bars is percent of shopping done online versus physical store pre, during, and expected post-COVID. So before COVID, 47% of the shopping was done online. During COVID, we all know that it propelled for both Hispanic and non, so it went up to 63, actually higher for Hispanic than non-Hispanic. But what's interesting is that Hispanic consumers are telling us that after COVID, more than half of their shopping will be done online, which is not the case for non-Hispanics at 48. So we see this frequently, sort of a leapfrogging, like, they went from less than 50% to more than 50% after COVID. They've embraced e-commerce. And we believe this is a significant opportunity for incrementality for online and DTC brands. The next question we asked was about, percent planning to purchase online in the next 12 months per category. And we see higher percentage of of consumers saying they are likely to make online purchases in the next 12 months of these categories. Highest being apparel and accessories, which traditionally we've been, the talk about, well, how does it fit? And we know COVID broke a lot of those barriers. So 75% of Hispanic consumers are saying they are ready to make a purchase. Same for footwear, food grocery, delivery, and home decor. So opportunities across categories is the message of this slide. Next, we asked, are you currently buying the direct-to-consumer brands? Will you continue buying? And what happens with premium brands? And in those three, we have good news. In terms of the question of have you purchased products online from any direct-to-consumer brand, 41% of Hispanics said yes versus 31% non-Hispanics. So that's 32% more likely. We'll continue buying, 67 versus 51. And I like the last one, which is, are you, compared to a year ago, how much more or less willing are you to consider a DTC brand the next time you're planning to buy mid to high price products? And that's 61 versus 44. So Hispanics are much more likely than non-Hispanics to buying, premium DTC brands. And when you think about premium, don't get caught up in the whole, Hispanics have, households have a slightly lower income than non-Hispanics, because what matters is not the income. What matters is where you spend the money. And we have seen significant spending power across category for Hispanics and growing. So now that you have heard, well, the Hispanic consumers is an attractive consumer. They're planning to shop even more online, even premium brands. How can I reach this consumer? And what we saw is that advertising is critical to building brand trust with Hispanics, especially on TV. So we saw verbatims like a direct-to-consumer brand feels more real and legitimate if I see it advertised on TV. 62 versus 51. I'm more comfortable about a DTC brand, same thing, 59 to 50. And I trust DTC brands more when I see them advertised on television. So the message here is that advertising in general provides this air cover for your brand. And we have a very special relationship with our consumers. Univision has the highest brand equity of any media company, traditional media company with Hispanic consumers, and brands that advertise would also be latching to this brand equity. And then now that you've said, okay, I get it, advertising, what language? Does language matter? And language matters. 86% of Hispanics appreciate brands and companies advertising in Spanish. And I want to say this is not exclusive to TV. This applies to your digital campaign too, where your digital campaign in language and in context is going to be much more effective than a digital campaign that might be, in English or in Spanish, but placed on an English website. So we see here when a company or brand communicates and advertises to me in Spanish, suggests that they're truly interested in Hispanics and the community, 75%. And think about how that resonates in an era of where diversity and inclusion is so important and where consumers are expecting brands to make the right move in this area. When we say this, we immediately get the question, well, but my website's not in Spanish. And we have researched this extensively, and 63% of Hispanics say they're most likely to use an English language site to transact. So there's really no expectation of having an end-to-end in-language experience or having a Spanish language site. 71% of Hispanics say they're comfortable with shopping and buying on English language only websites. As a matter of fact, we've heard in focus groups that people don't really like translated websites because they are suspicious that, are they getting the same thing that's on the English side, or is this a reduced version, or something that does not reflect the full experience. So you should be comfortable with your English language website or destination, because Hispanic consumers are used to transacting in English, even if that's the only thing that's available. And the proof of that is really that, we have already a number of direct-to-consumer brands advertising on our air without having a Spanish language website. So this is sort of the bulk of the study. But there's nothing like talking to somebody that has done it before. So before I pass it on to Janna from HomeAdvisor, I want to say that the key takeaway here is that brands should advertise to Hispanics in Spanish to build brand trust and loyalty, but they don't need to have a Spanish language website. If you guys can bring in Janna, and so she can actually bring this home with a real life example. Janna, all yours.
Thanks, Roberto. Really appreciate it. Hi, everyone. My name is Janna Navarro. I am Senior Director of Brand Media Strategy and Planning at HomeAdvisor. And I'm here today to talk to you about our path to advertising on Hispanic TV. So first and foremost, before I even get started into why we partnered with Univision, we knew from a category aspect that there was an opportunity here. For example, 39% of Hispanic audiences have used an online home service business, whereas 41% of them they're not familiar with companies in our space. So obviously there was an opportunity to right-size that. So why did it make sense to partner with Univision, right? Well, Univision brought reach and connection to engage Hispanic America. We knew that they were the #1 most trusted network among Hispanics. They have exclusive viewership. Something that's really important to us at HomeAdvisor is to make sure that we are extending our reach versus just building more unnecessary frequency. And also they have a really large audience that is not only, again, big in scale, but also growing year over year. For example, that chart on the right-hand side showcases the fact that Univision was up 13% in the time period analyzed, whereas a lot of the other networks were down in ratings. Additionally, Univision Brand Labs, they were really a partner from front to end. So not only at the beginning of the campaign and at the end of the campaign were we able to leverage their strategy and insights, they also have in-house capabilities that helped us translate our English language TV spot. And additionally, from a macro perspective, they just know the Hispanic consumers and they made our journey pretty easy. So kind of talking about that research that they provided us, I'll never forget, I think this was probably like the second meeting we had with Univision. They brought in this study that they did for us. It was a very simplistic research study with the question of which of the following companies, if any, have you heard of? And you'll see Amazon, Google, they're relatively flat between the US Hispanic adult and US non-Hispanic adult. But then you look at brands in our category and there's a huge gap there, big opportunity for us. For example, with HomeAdvisor, there was a 60-point awareness gap between US Hispanic adults and US non-Hispanic adults. And the next step, something that we were able to leverage with Univision, is their ability to translate our spot. So the way that process worked is, so we sent them all of our creative assets that we had available in terms of TV spots and said, hey, Univision, please tell us your expertise on what spot would make the most sense for your viewer. So they were able to do that and then, again, translate it. So if you want to play the spot, that would be great.
¿Tienes proyectos caseros? Ya sea un arreglo para ahora o más adelante. Cuenta con HomeAdvisor para hacer el trabajo bien hecho. Es fácil de programar, verificar precios y pagar por tus proyectos. Baja el app de HomeAdvisor y haremos todo para arreglártelo todo.
Thank you. So kind of bringing it home, how did we do? Overall, generating awareness among this consumer was extremely important to us. And after just a quick 4-week campaign, we were actually able to do that same survey post-campaign and found out that our awareness against the Hispanic consumer increased 7 percentage points, which again is pretty remarkable after just 4 weeks. And then Univision was actually able to pull us some search stats. And what we found here is that viewers who saw HomeAdvisor ads on Univision were actually 2.5 times more likely to search for our brand online. Whereas if they were to view an English language spot on an English language network, it would have taken 3 of those spots for them to have the same type of search engagement. And that's all I have for you. So I will bring back Roberto to the stage.
Thank you so much, Janna. Great stuff. I mean, I am fascinated by, the way we were able to work together. And I actually wanted to close by showing you what I mentioned at the beginning, which is Univision Brand Labs, and how we work with you, and we can work with other clients on everything from assessing the your growth opportunity, tap into consumer insights, develop media strategy. We saw the production, the TV that we were able to create, and then how we measured, in this case with EDO, we measured digital attribution, which was quite a success. I just want to ask you a quick question before we close, thinking that we have like a minute, which is, what was your biggest challenge? How did you sell this internally? What's the, lesson learned here?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges, I think there's two things. Number one, identifying the opportunity and the gap, which you guys were able to do through those surveys. Those were pretty eye-opening for me. And then also getting over the hump of being a brand of, hey, we don't have a website in Spanish. Is that going to be a big problem? So you guys provided that education for us. And then also, we don't have a TV spot that's in Spanish. What can we do there? And again, you guys were able to translate that.
It's great. Thank you so much, Janna, for joining me on this session. And thank to all of you that are virtually with us today. And hope you had a great conference. Goodbye. Thanks a lot.
Bye.